A very good afternoon, dear students, and welcome to the lecture of Advanced Accounting and Auditing Paper 2, SYBCom Semester 3. Hi, Professor Shaurya Shah. Welcome each one of you to my lecture. Dear students, as in the last lecture we had discussed short sums and university long sum of liquidation chapter, today also we'll be continuing with VNSGU 2019 sum of liquidation chapter. I hope everyone must have got the sum and you must have referred it also. Before starting with today's sum, in the last lecture, in the point of liquidators remuneration, few students asked me the query in Google Classroom, right? So I have posted the solution regarding the evaluated solution regarding your liquidators remuneration in the Google Classroom below the comment section of the link. You can check it and you can go through that also, those who are having the doubts. Fine. Again, keep asking the doubts if any during the lectures so that we can solve it and you can learn more. Fine. So starting with today's lecture, students, this is your VNSGU 2019's paper, right? Just the recent paper of last year. We'll be solving the long sum question number 2, that is Maharani Limited, right? Again, like always, we'll be first referring the sum, then we will be starting with the solution part. What is given in the balance sheet, as you can see, the very first thing given is your share capital, that is 12%, 10,000 fully paid up preference shares of 100 each, right? So preference share capital is given and the rate of dividend is 12%, as you can see. Next is your two types of equity shares are given. Generally in every sum we were having only one type of equity share, right? But here two types of shares are given. Amongst that, the first is 5,000 equity shares of 100 each, 60 rupees called up and paid up, right? Remember, the face value is 100, but the called up amount is 60 rupees and the paid up amount is also 60 rupees, right? So 40 rupees is still remaining on each share that may be called upon if necessary. Again, the next type of equity share you can see is 5,000 equity shares of 100 each, 50 rupees called up and paid up, right? So above 60 rupees was called up and paid up, here 50 rupees is called up. So again, this is 10 rupees less called up than the above. It may be useful at the time of making the payment. We'll see. 15% debentures of 4 lakh rupees, okay. Preferential creditors directly given 1 lakh 5,000. Bank OD is given, trade creditors is given, right? Again, profit and loss account is given. We never consider profit and loss account or any reserves and surplus in the liquidation chapter, right? So far you must have seen in all the sums. Asset side, only 4 assets are given: land and building, plant and machinery, stock in trade, and book debts, right? Book debts is the another name for your debtors, right? Debtors are also known as book debts. So again, the asset side is given. After that, you are having adjustments. Adjustments, the very first is your preference dividend is in arrears for 2 years, right? So dividend is in arrears, that means you need to calculate 12% on 10 lakh into 2 years, right? This will be paid when we pay the preference shareholders. Next is the new values of assets are given, as you can see, that will be posting directly on the receipt side. Third point is related to expenses of liquidation, that will be again put up on the payment side. Remuneration to the liquidator is 3% of realization, right? Only one type of remuneration is to be given, that is on the assets realized. So directly we'll be calculating 3% on all the assets which is given. And the last is income tax payable on liquidation is 44500, right? Income tax, students, it is again included in your preferential creditors because income tax is having a preference over all the other payments. So when we'll pay the preferential creditors, this amount of 44500 will also be paid along with preferential creditors. Fine. So I suppose everyone is clear with the sum now. We'll be starting with the sum. I hope everyone must have prepared the format in advance. If not, kindly prepare it. I'll give you again 15 seconds to prepare the format very quickly. And those who have prepared, just go through the sum so that we can start it. I hope everyone has prepared the format. Let's start, students, with the sum. The very first thing, we always start the liquidation sum as usual with the receipt side, right? Here in this sum, there is no cash balance given, students. So what we'll do is we'll directly start with the assets realized, right? So on the receipt side, please write down to assets realized, to assets realized. In that, the very first thing you are having in adjustment is your land and building, right? How much is land and building? Land and building is my 9,84,000. So please write down land and building 9,84,000 in the inner column. 9,84,000 in the inner column. Next you are having a stock in trade. Stock in trade is 1,63,000 rupees. Stock in trade is 1,63,000 rupees. Next is your plant and machinery. Plant and machinery given in the sum is 7,12,000. You need to take all the new values which is given in the adjustment, right? Because at the time of liquidation, you have to calculate that thing. Fine. Again, in the next adjustment, it is given book debts. I told you it is debtors, right? But they have used a different terminology. So we will write down the book debts only. Book debts, how much it is? 11,91,000, right? Forget the value of balance sheet. Whatever they have given, you need to write it down. Now I suppose no other asset is given, so do the total of all these assets will be your total amount of realization from assets which the liquidator has made. So the total which I have made is 30,50,000. Kindly recheck the total also. 30,50,000 rupees. I hope everyone must be getting this total. Fine. Now on the receipt side, so far I come to know that only this much is there, no cash balance is there, right? If any surplus is required, then we will call the money. You will learn a new point in this sum, that is calling the money which is not yet again received from the shareholders if any surplus is not left out. Fine. So we'll see as and when the sum progresses. Now starting with the very first thing on the payment side, right? What do you write? First of all, by secured creditors. But as we saw the entire sum, there is no secured creditors in that part, right? So what we'll do is after secured creditors, we pay liquidation expenses first. So by liquidation expenses, liquidation expenses given in the sum is 54,000 rupees. So write down 54,000 rupees by liquidation expenses. Next, students, after we pay the liquidation expenses, we pay immediately the liquidator's remuneration. Now in this sum, it is very easy because liquidator's remuneration is to be calculated on the basis of your assets realized, right? So what I'll do is, what is the amount of asset realized? 30,50,000 into how many percentage liquidator's remuneration is to be paid? 3%, right? So do the total, that is 30,50,000 into 3%. It gives me the value of 30,000 into 3 is 90 and 500 into 3 is 1500. So 91500 is my amount on liquidator's remuneration. I suppose everyone must be very clear with this part. Fine. So if you are done with this part, then the rest of the thing is very easy for you people. I suppose it is done. Fine. So starting with liquidator's remuneration is done. After we pay to liquidator's remuneration, we first of all pay to preferential creditors, right? Now again, preferential creditors by preferential creditors. Now here I could have directly taken the amount of 1,05,000. But in adjustment, income tax to be paid on your preferential credit, on your we can say liquidation purpose is given, right? So what you will do is preferential creditors 1,05,000 given in the balance sheet, plus you need to add up the income tax which you are paying, right? How much is the income tax? Income tax is your 44,500 given in the adjustment. You can see I am writing IT for your information, so that you can write down the total 1,49,500 is the total of the preferential creditors, right? I hope it is clear. Now in this sum, no remuneration is to be paid either on unsecured creditors or on preferential creditors or on any other payment, only assets realized. So we have done that part. Fine. Now after you pay to preferential creditors, you have to compulsory pay to the debenture holders, right? What do you write down? By debenture holders, by debenture holders. Now if you have seen very carefully in the sum, the balance sheet is given on 31st March 2018, but you are liquidating your business on 31st March 2019, right students? So there is a gap of 1 year from the date of balance sheet to the date of your liquidation, right? So what you will do is you have to pay the interest to debenture holders for 1 year, right? Again, one of the student asked in Google Classroom, in second sum we paid the debenture interest outstanding also and additional also, and in the fourth sum we paid only additional interest, right? But the thing was, in balance sheet the outstanding interest was definitely given. Here there is no information given regarding the outstanding interest, right? So we will pay only the additional interest. What is additional interest? It is the interest from the date of the balance sheet till the date of the liquidation you are paying, right? So from the date of the balance sheet till liquidation date, it is one complete year. So we will pay two things to debenture holders. The very first thing is, you can write down, is the principal amount. What is the principal amount of debenture holders? Principal amount of debenture holders you can see is 4 lakh. And plus the interest amount you need to pay. Interest is 15% on 4 lakh for 1 year. So if you calculate 15% on 4 lakh for 1 year, it will be 60,000, right? So what I'll pay to debenture holder is 4 lakh 60,000. I hope it is clear and easy. Fine. So debenture holders, the principal amount and the interest amount you need to pay. So I'll write down, by debenture holders principal amount 4 lakh plus interest 60,000 gives me 4 lakh 60,000. I hope it is clear till here everyone. So we have done four main things: asset realized, liquidation expenses, remuneration, preferential creditors and debenture holders. Fine. Now here comes the important part. After paying to this much, right, that is four people, four parties, next is you need to pay to preference shareholders. Fine. By preference shareholders, by preference shareholders. Now again, for preference shareholders, you need to pay two things. The very first is their principal amount. What is the principal amount? Principal amount is 10 lakh rupees. As you can see, the balance sheet begins with the preference shareholders only. Now the very first additional information gives you that preference dividend is in arrears for 2 years, right? It is in arrears for 2 years, means preference dividend is cumulative in nature. So 2 years you need to pay the dividend. So how much it will be? 12% plus 12%, right? So I can find plus arrears of dividend, plus arrears of dividend. How much? For your convenience I am writing 10 lakh into 12% into 2 gives me the amount of 2 lakh 40,000. So what is my total amount to be paid to preference shareholders? It is 12 lakh 40,000 rupees. I hope it is clear to each and everyone. Fine. Fine. So what students you need to do now is, after paying to preference shareholders, our chain completes, you need to pay to equity shareholders, right? But before paying to equity shareholders, you need to check whether we are having the amount or not, right? Whether we are having the surplus amount or not. So what you need to do is, you need to first come to the working, then we will see, because whenever, keep in mind, such kind of partly paid up shares are given, there will be one point for sure regarding the surplus amount, right? So for that surplus amount, we'll be doing one calculation and then you will be knowing whether it is again correct or not. Fine. So what we'll do is, we will do the total first of all in the working, right? So in the working, come to a working note after your sum is completed, right? Once your sum is done, come to the working note. Please write down working note. Once your sum is completed, leave 5-7 lines and start with the working note, right? Now what you need to do, students, is to check first of all what is the total of receipt side. What is the total of receipt side right now, right? I am having only one amount, that is 30,50,000. So can I write the total receipt of 30,50,000, right? I will be going very slow. You have to understand this point. It will be helpful in all the other long sums. So total receipt is 30,50,000. From that, you need to deduct total payments made till preference share. Total payment till preference share, right? So do the total of the payment side till your preference shares. Do the total of your payment side till preference shares, right? So what is the total? 54,000 plus 91,500 plus 149,500 plus 4,60,000 plus 12,40,000, right? Again, I'll be doing 54,000 plus 91,500 plus 149,500 plus 4,60,000 plus 12,40,000. So what is the total which you are getting, students? Fine. Do the total of the payment side. Okay, that is 19,95,000, right? Fine. I suppose it is clear to each and everyone. Fine. Now again, one thing I have purposely missed out, if anyone can make it out, right? Before paying to your preference shareholders, there is one thing, that is unsecured creditors. Here, is it there in this sum? Yes, definitely, right? So again, just keep in mind, you have to go in the flow. We first decided liquidation expenses, then liquidation remuneration, then preferential creditors, then debenture holders, then comes your unsecured creditors, right? So don't worry at all. You can write it down by unsecured creditors, right? I'll just put again a mark from red color so that you come to know. Remember, I'll be putting such kind of changes in the sum. You have to see and you have to stop and you have to solve your sum on the own, right? Just noting down is not enough. Understand the sum and then you will be solving it. Fine. So what is it? By unsecured creditors. Now as you can see in the balance sheet, what is unsecured creditors? Unsecured creditors will include only two things. The one is your bank OD and the second is your trade creditors, right? So do the total of your bank OD and trade creditors. What is the total you will be getting is 10,45,000 rupees. 10,45,000 rupees. Keep in mind this thing, next time you will be solving it. Fine. So those who are having the questions regarding this, it is very good that a doubt arises in your mind, right? So you need to take care, you need to practice more. Fine. By unsecured creditors, 10,45,000 includes your bank OD plus trade creditors. Keep in mind, right? Again repeating, unsecured creditors includes your trade payables, trade creditors and your bank overdraft. I suppose it is clear. Fine. Now do the total. Earlier you are having the total of 19 lakh. Again we can say 95,000 students, plus do the total of this unsecured creditors, right? So earlier I was having 19,95,000 plus 10,45,000. So what I am getting is the total of 30,40,000, right? So 30,40,000 is the total of my payment side till here, till preference shares. So I'll write down 30,40,000 rupees. Now the next thing I am having is, if I was having 30,50,000, I paid till now 30,40,000. So what is the surplus I am having? Surplus I am having is 10,000 rupees, right? Now here also students, there are two ways you can show this surplus. If you analyze in this shares, right, the equity shares of 5,000 are 60 paid up and equity shares of 5,000 are 50 paid up. So the difference, if you calculate 10 rupees on each share, it come to your 50,000, right? So what you need to do is, first of all, you need to call money on 5,000 shares to make it equal. So we will be going step by step, very slowly. Understand the point. I'll repeat it once again. First, I will call the remaining 10 rupees on this share, right? Assume that I have called made on 5,000 equity shares. Why I am making it? To make them equal, right? So assume call made on 5,000 equity shares into 10 rupees will give me 50,000 rupees. I am already having a surplus. I am already having a surplus of 10,000, right? So what is the total surplus I will be having now, students, is 60,000 rupees. Total surplus I'll be having is now, students, 60,000 rupees. I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Fine. So on what we have called this? We have called this money on the amount of 50 rupees paid up equity share. 50 rupees paid up equity share. Understand this very carefully. Again, I am repeating. Total of the receipt side was 30 lakh 50,000. Less we have made the payment of your, again, the all payment side 30 lakh 40,000. I am having a surplus of 10,000, right? After having a surplus of 10,000, it is not enough to pay to equity shareholders, right? So what I'll do is, one share is 60 called up and paid up, second share is 50 called up and paid up. So I'll call the remaining 10 rupees, 60 minus 50 is 10 rupees from this 5,000 equity shares. So I have done 5,000 into 10 rupees is 50,000. Assume that we are making a call, fine. So now I am having a surplus of 60,000 rupees, right? Is it clear? Now you can understand that both shares are 60 called up and paid up. Assume a notional call is made, fine. Now this 60,000 is to be divided among all the equity shares. How many equity shares are there? 10,000 if I do the total. 5,000 plus 5,000 is 10,000, right? So this 60,000 is to be divided among 10,000 equity shares. So if I assume that how much surplus will be per share, so surplus per share is equals to 60,000 rupees divided by 10,000 shares. Give me the amount of 6 rupees per share is my surplus, right? 6 rupees per share is my surplus. So students, instead of calling 10 rupees and returning 6 rupees, what I'll do is I'll call only 4 rupees, right? Understand it very carefully. What I'll do is I will call, how much I was calling earlier? 10 rupees. Now if I am returning 6 rupees, I will call only 4 rupees from 5,000 equity shares. I will call only 4 rupees from 5,000 equity shares. Is it clear, everyone? I hope it is clear to each and every student. Fine. So again repeating, 60,000 was the surplus. If I assume that I am making a call, I am not making a call, but it is just a notional call. You can understand, notional call made on 5,000 equity shares just to make them equal. Logically, both the shares should be on equal amount so that we can redeem it. So 60,000 divided by 10,000 shares. So 6 rupees per share if I return once I have made a call, right? So instead of calling money and returning back, I will call the lesser amount, right? So what I'll do is 10 rupees minus 6 rupees, so 4 rupees, right? This is the call which was going to be made. So this is the notional call amount. I will term it as notional call amount, right? From 6 rupees and 4 rupees I will return, right? So what is this amount? 4 rupees to be called from 5,000 equity shares, right? So write down. Purposefully I am going slow so that you can understand. This is the most important point of the sum. All these things you are clear with, but this is for the very first time you are understanding, right? So what you need to do is, on the receipt side, I will write down to call made from 5,000 equity shares. To call made from 5,000 equity shares. How much? 5,000 into 4 rupees will give me the amount of 20,000. I hope it is clear. 5,000 into 4 rupees is 20,000, right? You can write down here working note number 1 so that you come to know from where this amount of 20,000 came. Fine. Now students, earlier As we saw, there was a surplus of 10,000. Now I received 20,000 more. So how much surplus I am having? I am having a surplus of 30,000 rupees, right? Now this 30,000 will be returned to the equity shareholder of 5,000 shares. Fine. So what I'll do is, by equity shareholders, by equity shareholders, 5,000 into 6 rupees will give me the amount of 30,000. Right now, who are these shares? These are the people whose 60 rupees was called up, right? Logically, if you understand, students, right, see logically, right, what I have done is, I have those who were on 60 rupees, I have given back them 6 rupees. So they are now on 54 rupees per share. Is it clear? Those who are on 50 rupees, I have called 4 rupees from them. So they are now on 54 rupees per share. So logically both the shares are clear. Fine. So I suppose it is okay. Fine. No injustice done to any equity shareholder. So this is the main logic you need to understand. Again, you can work this out one more time. Practice this sum. The most important part is this, right? If you are clear with this part, it will be very easy. Now what I'll do is, I'll do the total of receipt side and payment side, right? Receipt side shows me 30,70,000, right? So what is the total? 30,70,000. Now also do the total of the payment side, whether it is getting tallied or not, right? So 54,000 plus 91,500 plus 149,500 plus 4,60,000 plus 10,45,000 plus 12,40,000 plus 30,000. So I am getting the students total of 30,70,000. That means that sum is perfectly correct. The only thing you need to take care is this red color. I purposely missed out so that you can understand, you can follow the pattern. And the last thing you need to do is this equity shareholder. So whenever you revise the sum, always revise with this first, 30,000 and 20,000. Right? Many a times what other authors do is, they directly return 10,000 amount to your equity shareholders, right? So 30 minus 20 is net effect is 10,000, the surplus amount. But in order to make it equal, university solution also shows that you need to first call the money and then you need to return it back. I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Fine. Okay. So this was your long sum. Again repeating, assets realized will be always on receipt side. Cash balance, it was not there in this sum, but it will be there. So on receipt side, calls to be made, that is also on receipt side. Then payment side, liquidators expenses, remuneration, above that secured creditors, then preferential creditors, then again debenture holders, then unsecured creditors, then preference shares, and then equity shares, right? So this is VNSU 2019. Remember students, if you are conceptually clear, 14 marks is at stake. Fine. I suppose each and everyone is clear now with the sum. Fine. Along with that, I have also given you one short sum to be solved. Fine. I hope everyone must have read that sum and must be having the question with you. Fine. So what is the short sum all about? I'll be directly telling you the sum and then we'll be solving it. Fine, as you are having the question. On liquidation of Rajni Limited, the amount realized by the sales of assets is 4,50,000 rupees, right? So what we'll do is, we'll simultaneously write down the points and solve it so that you can clearly understand the points. On liquidation of Rajni Limited, right? The sum's name is Rajni Limited. The amount realized on your assets sold is 4,50,000 rupees. So you can write down simultaneously, the amount realized is 4,50,000 rupees. Now the next thing they have said in the sum is, and the amount due is 5,10,000 rupees, right? So what is the amount due? Amount due is 5,10,000 rupees. Out of that, it also includes amount of preferential creditors, that is 15,000 rupees. So we can say that 4,95,000 is your unsecured creditors and 15,000 is your preferential creditors. Then only it will make the total of 5,10,000, right? So I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Fine. So this is the situation which is given in the sum. What you need to calculate is calculate remuneration of liquidator if he is entitled to a commission of 3%, right? So amount realized into 3%, the very first thing I come to know. 2% on amount paid, that is again 3% on amount realized and 2% on amount paid among the unsecured creditors, right? So again you need to calculate what is the amount which is to be paid. Fine. So we will be seeing you need to calculate the liquidator's remuneration in the sum, students, right? So we will be starting with the liquidator's remuneration. The very first thing is LR, that is 3% on amount realized. Amount realized, as we all saw, is 4,50,000. So 3% on 4,50,000 rupees gives me the amount of, calculate 4,50,000 into 3%. So that amount comes to 13,500, right? So I'll write down in the outer column, that is 13,500. Now same doubt came in the last sum also, last long sum which we did in the last lecture, that whether it is to be paid on preferential creditors or not, right? Always pay it also on preferential creditors, which is generally seen in your reference book and in university solutions also. So what we'll do is, we'll first pay also 2% which is given in the sum on preferential creditors too, right? Why we are following? Because in reference book also it is given and in university solutions also they pay compulsory to the preferential creditors because it is included in your amount due. Fine. So 2% on students preferential creditors is 15,000. 2% on 15,000 will be 300 rupees, right? I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Fine. Now what you will do is, you need to first find out the surplus which is remaining with the liquidator after paying to this people, right? So after paying to preferential creditors, after paying to your liquidator's remuneration, how much amount is remaining, right? So what I'll do is, amount remaining, our sum generally started with this part, the short sum which we used to do, 4,50,000 minus preferential creditors are paid 50,000, 15,000, sorry, minus 13,500 liquidators remuneration minus 300 liquidators remuneration, right? So you can again deduct it and you can find the amount. My amount comes to 4,21,200 rupees, right? This is the amount which used to be given in short sum, on the basis of which you need to calculate the liquidator's remuneration. Now the last part in this is, this includes two parts. One is to be paid to unsecured creditors and the second is 2% of liquidator's remuneration. So my equation remains the same. If 102 is 421,200, how much will be my 2, right? So multiplying it by 2 and dividing it by 102, I will get the answer, right? So if my 102 is 421,200, how much will be my 2, right? So what I'll get is, I'll get the answer of 8259 rupees. 8259 rupees, right? So what is asked in the sum? In the sum it is asked students to calculate the liquidator's remuneration, right? So total liquidator's remuneration I will do is 13,500 plus 300 plus 8259 rupees, right? So again 13,500 plus 300 plus 8259 rupees. So I'll get the total of 22059. 22059 rupees is my total liquidator's remuneration that I'll write down in the last line. Liquidator's remuneration is equals to 22059 rupees. I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Fine. So this is how you need to calculate. A different type of short sum can also come like this. Generally only the surplus sums comes in your exam, but you need to practice more and more sums. Fine. This was your VNSGU 2016 which we practiced, right? This sum was VNSGU 2016. It was asked for 3 marks. 1, 2, 3 marks. Fine. I hope it is clear to each and every student. Fine. You all must be clear with this part. If any doubts, any queries, you can put up in Google Classroom. I think that is enough for today. So we'll conclude the lecture at this stage. This is Professor Shaurya Shah teaching you Advanced Accounting and Auditing Paper 2. Have a good day ahead, students. Take care.